Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. I don't know about you, but this is a great time to be a sports fan, right? I know I talked about in a couple of videos ago about the March Madness, and obviously that's still going on. And today's the MLB season opener, which I always personally enjoy. It's a long season, but there's always something great about when baseball kicks off in late March and the beginning of April. So I wanted to use the analogy for baseball season kicking off with upcoming earnings season kicking off. The banks get us going in about a week and a half or 2 weeks actually from tomorrow. Baseball's kicking off, earnings season will be kicking off, and it's a good time to like kind of focus on our strategy, right? Like what do we look for? Like back to basics. And Movado was a really great example of that, right? Um, what I had been noticing over the last couple weeks, and I'm sure you guys have been as well if you focus on these types of catalyst trades, is that a lot of the volatility around reports had been contracting a little bit. So you hadn't really seen the same magnitude of moves as you had earlier in March or in February, right? You had some really great action in January as markets were recovering, and then February was a lot of just really fantastic breakouts, bull flag breakouts, continuations, just some really unbelievably strong moves higher. And then March has been a little bit different, and over the last couple of weeks, as the averages have chopped around in their base, right? So as the averages have kind of chopped around right here, like what you've seen is basically a lot of like these priced in moves, like the stocks that have these larger priced in moves haven't really come anywhere near uh, moving that much, right? So encouraging was what we saw, which both exceeded their moves. Um, so what I was looking for in Movado, just we won't look at today yet, was basically a significant move either way, right? My bias was actually to the downside, and that's really mostly due to Piers Fossil and TPR, which is his coach in Kate Spade. Both had disappointing reports, and Movado actually is coming off basically two sharply lower moves. Even though last quarter it did pop initially, then it gave it all back. My opinion coming into it was more on the bearish side, but as it kind of chopped around this week, I felt that there were indicators saying that it could really have a substantial move either way. Part of that is the fact that it's been kind of like range bound, right, in like this lower area down here. So it's been kind of chopping around in like this 35 to like 30 range, right? But also, history means something, right? Like a lot of people are quick to dismiss historical moves when it comes to earnings, and I really don't understand that, right? What you've seen, so this is like the last year on Movado. What you've seen is just really consistent movement, right? Not necessarily direction, two up and two down. But what's been consistent is the fact that it's actually moved, right? And that's what I love to see is that, whether it's good or bad, the thing moves, right? The stock moves. Um, Going back over the last year, the stock had averaged over an 8 point move, so an 8 point swing on the day of its report. But yet, coming into the week, the April 18th options, so that they weren't even weekly options. These are options that have another 3 weeks on top of this. They were only pricing in about four and a quarter. They did get bid up a little bit, and they were closer to four and a half on the day of earnings yesterday. But still, you look at this and you see, okay, it's something that has demonstrated very consistently over the last year that it moves here, 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 and here. But yet the options were priced well underneath that, and some of that obviously has to do with the fact that we had been in like a lower volatility environment the last couple weeks, right? So I'm sure that impacted it. But this is also the holiday quarter, right? So it makes sense on maybe some other names that already gave holiday sales guidance, right? Then you have some of the uncertainty removed. But Movado hadn't given sales guidance yet. So this was the first look at the critical holiday quarter, right? They're going to guide for the year. So you don't have the quarter guidance, you don't have the holiday guidance, you don't have the quarter guidance. And the stock has demonstrated over the last 4 quarters that it could average an 8-point move, right? So that's why I felt like a volatility strategy. So a strangle in this case was interesting. It was targeting basically a 6 to 8 point move either way. And the way I came up with the price targets, a measured move. So with the stock at like say 32.50, right? A measured move underneath 29 to like 30 would put it in like the low, well, like the mid 20s, right? And which kind of corresponds nicely. Right? So which corresponds nicely to you have like the support in like the 26 to 27 area, right? And then there's like another gap underneath it. So, potentially 6 to 8 points underneath, right? And then on the upside, you have like this really nice air pocket, right? Above 35 in the 100-day, there's really nice air pocket up to the 200-day, which is, for me, like I'd love to use these moving averages as targets just because I know a lot of people focus on them. You can see here, obviously, it was a significant area. So you had a nice air pocket up to like the 200-day, which was right above 39. So like from 32, that was about, 6, 7 points higher, right? So what happened was they had a really nice quarter. I was coming into the week thinking bearish, but changed the trade, went both ways. So they had a really nice quarter, and the thing ripped. And what do you know? I mean, it moved between 6 to 8 points, right? Hit the 200-day almost perfectly, and it definitely exceeded what was priced in. So that's why there's still opportunities out there. And sometimes it's frustrating when you do all this work and you design like a trade and you have like everything lined up well, but for a reason it just doesn't trigger, right? But it's still worth doing the work, and it's still worth like putting these types of trades on, especially when things line up, when there's like multiple indications that this thing should move and the options appear to be underpriced, right? So like it's like you're in a funk in baseball, right? You're in like an 0 for 16 slump. I mean, you're not trying to do anything different. You're just trying to focus on like the top setups, right? Like wait for your pitch and swing and try to make contact, right? So that's why when things aren't moving, you just want to basically focus, like do the research, focus on like the better setups, right? Like the top setups, the things that have demonstrated, have demonstrated consistently that they move, and then design a strategy around that, right? All right, so Movado was today, Restoration Hardware tonight. We'll see how that goes. A little bit quieter next week, but there still are some things coming up. So I will do the options, the earnings on the radar video tomorrow. So be sure to check that out. And then we're going to meet on Monday, right? Our option session is Monday. So I'm looking forward to catching up with all you guys then. So I hope you guys can stop by Monday night, Monday afternoon, and talk shop with me for a while, right? So I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow.